Now, with more on the top issues for voters in Florida, Congresswoman Paulina Luna, who is also seeking a second term against Democrat challenger Whitney Fox for the Florida 13th Congressional District. Congresswoman, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks very much for being here. How would you assess the race right now? How are you feeling?
Are you talking about nationally or my race?
Your race. First, your race.
Well, I will tell you that our internals from the get-go have been leading. But, you know, Maria, yesterday I actually had, unfortunately, my campaign manager, who's a woman, was assaulted by one of Whitney Fox's supporters at the Clearwater courthouse for early voting. And so what we're finding right now is because of the polarized media, largely due to the rhetoric that Kamala Harris and Whitney Fox have been putting out, people are getting hurt. So we're not taking any unnecessary risks right now.
Well, I mean, look, Congresswoman, it was a week of slurs from, Joe Biden calling Trump supporters garbage to Mark Cuban saying that, Trump is never with smart and intelligent women. It seems that Kamala Harris is trying to walk it back as much as she can. But the message has been about attacking Trump throughout this campaign, as opposed to articulating real policy. What are you thinking and feeling about the presidential race right now? How does it look to you?
I think, and I've been saying this, President Trump is surging right now with people that we haven't showed up, these low propensity voters, but also, too, Mike Johnson said it best, Hispanic voters in some of these battleground states like Nevada, like Arizona, are actually surging in favor of President Trump's platform. And so I think when you're talking about the national demographics that are coming home for the GOP, that's going to affect everyone, not just the presidential, but down ballot. I think that we're in luck. We're going to have a juggernaut, meaning we'll have the House, the Senate, and the White House. And if that happens, Maria, it's going to be a great day for America the next day.
Tell me about the policies that are really resonating here. In a few minutes, we are going to talk with the mayor of Hamtramck, Michigan, of course, a Democrat mayor who is an Arab American and who says that Trump's policies is what is resonating with him and his constituents. You've talked about the Hispanic vote. We've talked about black men as well. What specific policies do you think they are attracted to, all of these very much Democrat stronghold groups?
I think right now, number one, being the economy. Also, too, when you're talking about the various parties, like, for example, Jewish Americans or Muslim Americans that are supporting President Trump, it's because of his peace perspective and foreign policy on the Middle East. We're finding right now that, as you had stated earlier, Kamala Harris is sending out two very different messages. And under her watch and this administration, there's been nothing but war and chaos in Israel. And so I think people right now want stability. I think that they understand that right now, financially, we're not succeeding. We're not winning as a country. But also, too, when you look at what's happening with the unvetted, unchecked illegal immigration, Maria, I've talked to over 60,000 voters in my home county of Pinellas County, and I've talked to independents and Democrats that registered, that were new to this country, and they simply don't think that it's fair that right now you have people just walking through the southern border and causing chaos in our country. And so I think these issues right now, people are showing up to the polls, independents are showing up in record numbers. And so if people show up, which I would recommend, show up, vote in person, vote early, I think we're on track to win this thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised at the polls and how close they are, given that we keep hearing about President Trump, cutting into these Democrat strongholds. Do you believe that the GOP can expand the majority in the House while also flipping the Senate?
I think it's going to be tight. I think in some of these races, like in New York, and especially in some of these more blue areas that are dominated by legacy media that are just pushing, for example, the fake news narrative about Liz Cheney, for example, the other day. We know that Trump never made those comments. But again, people sometimes want to believe the rhetoric that they see. And so I think it's going to be tight in some of these areas. But again, I think as long as my elected members of Congress stay to messaging and also continue to really talk on issues that President Trump has been addressing, I think that, we'll get a lot of those independents, and I think that we'll win the thing.
We're going to talk to James Comer in just a few moments, the chairman of the Oversight Committee. You, of course, are a member of that committee. What do you want to say about Kamala Harris and Tim Walz? I know there is an investigation underway into Tim Walz's ties to communist China.
I mean, it's not just communist China, Maria. Tim Walz just also got busted for giving taxpayer dollars to a corporation that was hiring migrant children to clean slaughterhouses. And so when you're looking at the message and the finger pointing that the Democrats tend to do, and then you realize if you check under their hood, they're the ones guilty of exactly what they're accusing us of. I think that it's obviously very alarming. But I think, you look at what he said about being in China, and we know that he lied about that, too. And so it would be no surprise if there were any connections there.
So the investigation into Joe Biden, we haven't heard a lot about that. Is that sort of in the back seat at this point, now that he is no longer a factor?
Unfortunately, I think so. And obviously, that's up to the chairman's discretion. I know Comer's been really on him about his family ties and dealings. But no matter what, I think Congress needs to pass legislation so that it doesn't happen again, because what we saw was influence peddling. I tried to go after Merrick Garland, and it was our own party that tried to block that. And so I believe that if you are going to write the law, you should be held to the same standards of the law, and that it's not fair that Joe Biden sold his position.
And what about securing the vote? We'll talk with Lara Trump about that coming up. How much confidence do you have that we will see a secure election on Tuesday, given all of the allegations flying from non-citizens voting to the timing of accepting ballots before and after the election?
Maria, I have a lot of confidence in what President Trump did with putting Whatley as the co-chair of the RNC along with Laura Trump, who has nothing but the invested interest of her family succeeding for good reason. What I will also tell you is if you're a Republican voter, if you're an independent voter, be aware of voter suppression efforts that are posing as conservative groups, posing as Republican groups that are trying to suppress people from showing up to the polls, sending out false information. There's, I believe, an organization called Center for Voter Integrity that sent out 300 million mailers that inverted Republican policy positions with everyone running for office if they were a Democrat. So just be aware, understand that if you vote early, vote in person. We can target people that haven't shown up yet. We can do ballot chasing, but we need your help. Don't believe the rhetoric. We're going to win this thing. Just get to the polls.
So many dirty political tricks out there. Congressman, thanks very much. We'll be aware of all of that. Good to see you. We'll be watching.
Thank you.
All right, Paulina Luna, a quick break, then